park right next to us is Highland Park. And I wanted to talk about the fact that even though like there's lots of gang violence and drug usage and gambling that goes on in our park, I feel like the police officers who work there and are there to keep us safe and protect us from the things that go on aren't really doing such a good job, because like the park just got shot up the other day. And the police officers there racially profile people who come to the park to enjoy the park. I don't understand why that happens, and would like to know if you can provide me a solution.
Absolutely, that's what we're here for, to try and provide the most effective law enforcement we can. And it sounds like we need to have a conversation out to the side with the commander and the deputy chief up there around here, talking about Highland Park, just south of Jordan High School. And we had some challenges up there, so again, a lot of it has to do with information we're getting. A lot of times people will call the police and they give us a quick snippet of what's going on. They hang up. And maybe one day I can invite you to our communication center so you can actually listen to the calls coming in and the information the officers get when they're trying to connect dots about who's involved. And then they get there and everyone's scattering, and it's hard, but that's what we get paid for. So the bottom line is, if you don't mind, it sounds like we got several things to discuss with you after this meeting, but we want to make having safe parks is our priority. We gotta have safe parks. We don't have a safe community, so please stick around at the end. Thank you.
My name is Hassan Moran. I'm the cousin of Faraz Moran, who was shot and killed 2 weeks ago by Officer Matthew Hernandez. First of all, I want to thank you from the church for inviting us to the house of worship, and from the police department for taking time to get us personally and give this message to you. I'm here appealing to those in the department who recognize that the police use of lethal force was not justified by my unarmed cousin. I'm asking you to ensure that no family has to endure the help that my family has earned over the past 2 weeks as a result of this tragedy. My cousin was a model citizen. He was planning to go to law school. He had a 3.9 GPA. He was accepted to many top schools like UCLA and Berkeley. When I was out of the country and I heard the news, and you won't believe the shock, I could not believe this happened. How could someone like this be involved with altercation with the police? On May 27th, he may have been intoxicated, and he was disoriented as he fell from a 2-story window. The officer was aware of this when he came to the scene, and he saw that my cousin was unarmed, yet he still decided to use lethal force. So the question I pose to you, Chief Loon, and every member of the police department is this. Imagine if your son or daughter was in the situation that my cousin was in. Would you be okay with the officer using lethal force when he's in a situation where he's obviously injured, blood is covered, when he's covered with blood, the fire department was there, they're unable to keep him calm and give him care? Would you want that officer to respond to your son or daughter in the same way that Officer Hernandez responded to my cousin? You can't undo killing somebody. Every victim of lethal force is a loved one to somebody out there. I'm calling upon the police department to implement dramatic changes to their training and their protocols to ensure that nobody has to suffer the pain of losing a loved one in this manner ever again.
Thank you for having the courage to come, and I sincerely apologize for the loss of your family member. And you kind of said something that hits for all of us. I'm a father, husband, just like many of us are up here. And your words and your loss doesn't leave us. It's something we take absolutely serious. The shooting will go through a review process. And as I stand here as a man looking at you, I will tell you this, that my job is to look at every factor very objectively to make sure that we did everything that we're supposed to do. Okay? It's a part of our process, and we have a very, very thorough process. And not only are we looking at it, but the LA County Coroner's Office looks at it, and the LA County District Attorney's Office is also looking at it. So again, I'm very sorry for the loss of your family.
I see Pastor Stanley sat next to you. Pastor, don't let him. If you have a few minutes afterwards, we want to connect with you as well. And I really honor your voice and the heart. And I'm to share in your loss, but don't leave us out. It's very articulated. Very articulated. Very well. Yes, sir. Oh, yes. That's right. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Michael Lozano. We've met before. I'm a journalist with Voice Waves. Did you guys hear that? I'm a journalist with VoiceWaves.org, based in Long Beach. And my question has to do with statistics from the Citizens Police Complaint Commission, having to do with racial disparities and who's filing complaints with the commission. So, for example, in 2012, the commission reported that 43%, which is the biggest portion of complaints, came from people who were African American, even though African Americans are only 19% of the entire population in Long Beach. That being said, 19% of complaints were filed by Latinos, but Latinos make up almost 41% of the city of Long Beach. So in other words, African Americans are overwhelmingly file complaints through the Police Complaint Commission, and Latinos are underrepresented in this regard. So what do you think, what is your explanation for this disparity?
Number one, I can't comment on stats. I mean, I'd like to see the stats myself before I comment on any stats that are given. But I go back to an answer I gave previously regarding anybody who feels that they were racially profiled or there's any disparity in their treatment. Part of our core values is respect. And if people feel at any given time that they were disrespected, they have an opportunity to file a complaint with our Internal Affairs Division or our Citizens Complaint Commission. And those processes are there. And this is the important part about going to community meetings and talking about these things. Because if for some reason, like the young lady was talking about out in the park, maybe when she talks to Commander Camisa, hypothetically, we start putting more enforcement in the park. We think we're doing the right thing. We think we're trying to make it safe, but maybe we're not going about it the right way. We need to hear that feedback from the community groups that we go out to make sure we're gauging things right. But at the same time, it's got to be a two-way conversation so that you understand our priorities, making sure your priorities are ours, because obviously we serve the public, but to make sure we're all on the same page. The fact that people are filing complaints, that doesn't necessarily bother me. I want people to file complaints if they feel something is going wrong. But when we talk about complaints, most people will hear me talk, they hear me talk about what I call a shared responsibility, that when somebody gets stopped on the street, no one has a constitutional right to resist a police officer. If you don't feel you're being treated right, you need to file a complaint. If you feel you were stopped for the wrong reasons, you need to file a complaint. But the other thing I invite people to do, and I invite people to do this all the time, is go on a ride along. See what it's like to be in a police car with a police officer as they are receiving calls of information, limited information, and when they're going out and looking at certain crime trends. Because I didn't hear it's funny, you talk about complaints. I don't know if you have stats on there on victims and suspects and crime reports that are filed. So if somebody calls us and say they were robbed, what race are they? The allegations of the suspect descriptions. You got to mix demographics, victim information, suspect information. You got to put a whole picture to it before you can say, okay, this may be a problem. Because if you're only talking about that aspect, it's very one-sided. Very one-sided.
Good evening, born and raised in Long Beach. My name is Ruben Morajon. Hector Morajon is my little brother. He was senselessly killed by a Long Beach police officer who continues even today working business as usual. I speak of Hector and the president because my brothers and I are still unable to grasp that he's no longer here. I'm here as Hector's voice. The Long Beach PD responds to my brother's killing with this meeting to attempt to establish credibility with the community. Totally ignoring how we destroyed our entire family and ripped our hearts apart. There was no reason to kill my brother. Long Beach police did not investigate itself. That's an inherent conflict of interest. Pretending that the Long Beach police objective is dishonest. If you really wanted to be transparent, the first thing to do is turn over the entire investigation of my brother's killing to a Department of Justice. We want action. Admit that you cannot investigate yourself. Admit that unless an outside investigation takes place, there is no true investigation. Be honest. Enforce the law to yourself by turning over my brother's Hector's homicide investigation to the U.S. Department of Justice. Why hasn't there been a release of the 911 dispatch calls? We want the release of all dispatch calls